came so far from dreams. The path was hard for me. They thought we fall, you see. Well, look at us now, look at us now. We make it hot when we on the scene. Yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team. Yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around. You know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we. Tell me who better than we. We soaring to places you never could reach. When we walk in that spot, don't hear none of you speak. Shh, do you want peace or the peace? A king about to put you to sleep. Listen, my team is elite. You not even qualified to compete. He starving, he barely can eat. I guess that's why he always itching for beef. So I put him on ice and I told him to chill. Close your mouth if you can't pay for the meal. Making statements that you know you don't mean. Nice guy trying to act like he mean. Keep it a buck, keep it a bean. Attitudes will put you dudes in the beam. Isekai, he don't live in reality. Shake back off, come on fatality. Yeah, how you gon' hate when you mirror us? He think he a star, he ain't serious. X him out, we not on the same frequency. If you broke, you ain't hearing us. Work the screw, anime, that's how I feel, period. We winning, that's making them furious. We make it high when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we.
Yo, what it do, guys? It is your boy, Leo Mookie here, and I'm back to you with another new What If for you guys to start this year off with a bang. And honestly, guys, and if you can tell from the title, yes, it is a Will What If. And this is What If Will could summon Fire Emblem heroes. This is part 1. And if you guys remember from that update, like I said before, this is going to be the last new Will What If I do on the channel for a while now, at least until season 2 comes out, so my what ifs can be at least a little bit more prevalent when I do so. Because honestly, I really don't want to end my Will content because Will is so easy to make what ifs around without destroying the entire plot of Wistoria after all. So yeah. And right, on how I'm going to basically do this what if, guys. Honestly, there are way too many heroes and variants of heroes within Fire Emblem Heroes after all. Not to mention the fact that, well, there are not really a lot of weapon classes when it comes to that of Fire Emblem, to be honest. Outside of the sword, outside the weapon triangle, and the very other, well, skills and abilities that Fire Emblem characters can do in that of their series, like swords, axes, lances, bows, tomes, daggers, and transformations such as that of Malachites and the Lagoos, or what other beast creatures are named in certain other Fire Emblem games. But even so, I'm limiting to how many, heroes that Will can summon in this, just like that of my, what if Izuku can summon heroic spirits, and what if, Asta can summon that of epic heroes. So once again, will also be limited too. So with enough explanation out of the way, let's get into this, shall we, guys? A world consumed by darkness. Dark beings and evil gods roam the world, basically subjugating and ruining humanity. However, all that changed when the Queen of Magic, Mercedes, gave humanity the chance to fight back against those who dwell in the darkness. But it's said that she didn't do it alone. She had help from those from other worlds. But some say that's just speculation and nothing but a child's tale. The ones who truly brought back that of humanity from the brink of darkness were those known as the Magia Vanders, creating a magic barrier that gave humanity the sky. With visitors from other worlds known such as that of the elves and dwarves, with elves having that of powerful magical potential and power, while the dwarves having no magical power but excelled in that of physical strength and durability, as this was the world that everyone lived in. However, what if to say that there's so much more than people expect? Since other worlds exist, what if other powers exist as well? And that the world that they live in is not as black and white as they believe it to be. And the one to basically show this side of gray would be one boy with that of dark navy blue, black hair, amethyst violet eyes, and that of and with no magical power whatsoever, as this boy would be Will Serfort. Will Serfort, a 7th year within that of Red Garden Academy, one of the few prestigious academy across the world, and the location for the infamous and iconic tower, the tower where all of the Magiavanders are located, and where that of their 5 factions call home. Will, from a young age, admired that of the Magiavander, always looked up to them for that of their powers to give them that of the bright sky. However, what he truly admired was basically seeing that of the sky itself and seeing the sunset from that of the tower where they all live and located at, and wanted to see it with that of the one person he cherishes the most, that being his foster sister and the one person he loved more than and cherishes the most, Elphiria Serfort. Elfie, a blue-haired young woman who's basically the very definition of a prodigy, talented from the day she was born, skilled in ice magic, and even created her very own spells without even breaking a sweat at the age of 2 to 3 years old. You would think she would always have a chip on her shoulder or basically see herself as a goddess in human clothing. Farthest thing of it. If anything, she's one of the most kindest, caring, and most understanding person in the world. However, she can be really selfish when it involves around the one person she loves the most, that being Will. You would think because these two are the total opposites of each other, that they would never get along, but that would be farther from the truth. The two, as children, were always inseparable, always together, no matter what. Not only that, when a certain incident happened when they were kids, as they encountered that of a monster, Will basically shows that he did have magic, but a unique form of magic. The magic to basically absorb and channel magic through that of a sword, otherwise known as Weiss. But at the same time, something else happened as well. Before Will could deal that of the final blow onto the monster, using that of an ice blade, a portal appeared right behind that of the monster. As soon, something flies right over it and lands in front of Will before the portal closes. With that, seeing the opportunity, Will doesn't know what he gets before the weapon soon begins to that looks like that of a medieval gun, actually, with gold embroidery and a white grip, begins to basically glow and sync with that of Will. At the same time, Will could feel power beyond his understanding, power that he can barely measure, power that even outscales the Magiavanders he admire, power beyond this very world that he has known as a child. Before that very moment, he soon points that of the weapon as with that of a solitaire, as it begins to glow a piercing blue, as the blast sends that of multicolors towards that of the creature, as it roars in that of pure and utter agony, almost like it's being completely and utterly atomized to the molecular level. Before then, soon, that blast also creates a wormhole. Before then, it materializes that of multiple lights, at least that of 4 lights, as that of 4 individuals that are different shapes and sizes, different appearances and clothing, and even radiate that of power beyond anything that they have seen. With Elfie and Will a little bit terrified. However, for some reason, Will doesn't feel scared entirely. Instead, he feels somewhat at ease. For some reason, he feels like he knows these people. With Will standing up, with Elfie wondering, Will, what are you saying? You aren't here to hurt me, are you? Within, one voice, sounding arrogant, saying, of course we're not mortal. You have that of the brighter blick, so it only makes sense that we are here to aid you, since you are our summoner, right? Within, hearing this, the three other entities also spoke up too, and they all speak in their own way, that they are here to help Will and guide him. Since that day, Will's life has changed for both the better and for the stranger. Currently now, being his 7th year at Red Garden Academy, he's currently now in class with that of his, magical fundamentals lesson. With that of one of the most up his own ass instructor in the entirety of Red Garden Academy. A tall, lanky man with that of messy, long black hair, with one strand basically going over that of the left side of his face, down to that of the rest of his other hair, as is being Professor Edward Serfin, as one student basically explains that of a lesson plan and how to use that of a certain spell. He's saying, very good. Now then, would somebody like to come down and perform the following spell? As a certain someone begins writing everything down, as when Professor Edward noticing this, as internally he having that of a devious look before going back to that of neutral boredom, saying, Will Serfort. Within, hearing his name, Will adjusting his circle frame glasses, saying, yes, sir? Would you care to come down and demonstrate the spell? Then, soon, Will saying, really, sir? Do you really want to choose somebody like me? I mean, shouldn't somebody else be? I asked you to come down now. Are you disobeying a teacher? Within, Will hearing this, as he couldn't help but flinch a little bit. Before then, he couldn't help but get annoyed, saying, of course, sir, I'll be down. With a girl with that of short yellow hair, looking at that of the blue net, saying, oh, Will, I don't know why he does this to you. It's because he's a bastard who likes to torture people. Within, hearing that, saying, well, you're not wrong about that. As the girl couldn't help but sigh. As for Will, he looks at that of the sulfur alongside that of the vial with it. Within, Edwards with that of a smug look, saying, now then, you know the incantation. No need to be shy. Within, Will couldn't help but sigh, saying, oh, great flame, spring forth. With then, as nothing happens, that's when everybody begins to laugh. And that's a Will not using any form of flames at all. Before then, a huge mask of bloodlust and aura begins to waft around the entirety of the classroom, shutting up everybody in that split moment of seconds. Within, even Edwards could feel that bloodlust, wondering where did it come from. Before then, Will basically walks off to that of his seat, saying, apologies, sir, but I couldn't use it. Maybe it's best if you use somebody else instead. If Edward's a little bit caught off guard by this, as he clears his throat, saying, yes, fine, go back to your seat. Worthless note taker. Within saying, Scion Olston, come down. Would you? Within, soon, the very student known as Scion, a red-haired young man with that of wearing an all-black uniform, unlike that of everybody else, sends that of a fire spell without even needing to say the incantation. Within saying, there you go, sir. I'm guessing since the laggard couldn't take care of it, I should do it myself. With then, soon looking at Will, who's not even fazed, as not even caring what Scion is having to say about him, as he couldn't help but basically get annoyed at this. As for then Professor Edward saying, yes, thank you, Ulster. But even so, this is a demonstration on why magic is very important to this academy. Magic is prestige, magic is respect. The very people that we see as heroes wield magic. Without it, you can't grow at all. I hope that you all will take this seriously, even if it's now your final year, especially with those with no form of talent. With that, Will couldn't help but clench his fist at hearing those last words. Before then, that same bloodlust basically walks over that of the classroom again, with even that of Edwards feeling like it was more directed towards him this time, as he couldn't help but go down to his knees at that very moment, with Will whispering, saying, "Knock it off." Within, the bloodlust fades, with even that of Professor Edwards getting off his knees, with one student with that of long blonde hair, as she's saying, "Professor Edwards, are you okay?" As this being Leanna, the number one student within Red Garden Academy, saying, yes, I am fine." With then, Will couldn't help but sigh before then saying, "Seriously, you three really need to keep that on a lid." With one voice saying, "Sorry, my darling Will," as it sounds, well, seductory. Within, another voice that's quite familiar saying, "The mortal needs to know his place. Stop trying to control us, summoner." When another feminine voice saying, "Lord Will, please, this is our duty after all. It's our duty to protect you. Remember that." As this is another feminine voice, but it sounds a lot more respectful. Within, Will couldn't help but sigh once more, but smile, saying, "Thanks. Appreciate it. Balder, Camilla, Altina." As he really means it. With them, can even feel it as well. With that, class has finally come to an end. Before then, Will couldn't help but lean back onto the wall, saying, "He really did try to bring it out on me, didn't he?" Within, one voice saying, "Wow, you really are basically a glutton for punishment if you're still here, you laggard." Within, Will couldn't help but mentally think, speaking of annoying punishment, looking back at that of the redhead, with that of two other of his lackeys, saying, "Hi, Scion. I heard that you were basically back in the dungeon, scraping that of lower monsters, if I recall." Within, Will saying, "It's not like you were there, Scion, so you don't know which floors I was on." "Oh, really? You really think I don't know? Only somebody with no talent or ability can basically go down lower into the dungeon, you talentless." Within, before he could finish, a certain somebody was about to materialize. Within, Will realizing this and about to freak out, with as soon somebody stepping out of the classroom and saying, "That's enough, out of all of you." Within, Scion pushing that of Will, saying, "Well, if it isn't Colette, how is our esteemed honor student would achieve by defending this worthless piece of..." Within, Colette, before he could finish, saying, "Will Serfort is one of the most hardworking and most dedicated students in this school. He's even kinder and a lot more respectful than you, Scion, and I won't have you disrespect my friend." With then, she mentally saying, "Plus, I really don't want you to die so soon. It will affect Will." Within, Will shocked by this saying, "Colette," with a voice saying, "That's what I expect from that of your only good friend here in the school, outside of Rusty. Try not to take her for granted, Will." Within saying, "Don't worry, I never would." With Scion saying, "Even so, doesn't matter. It takes more than kindness and hard work to make it in this academy, especially if a talentless loser like him is trying to aim to be Magia Vander." Within, Will hearing this, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes, with Scion saying, like Professor Edwards said, do everyone else here a favor and enroll yourself immediately." With Colette basically sticking her tongue out and annoyed at that of Scion, and not just him, but also that of Will's little familiar, Kiki, a carbuncle. Within, Will saying, "Thanks for the save there, Colette." Within, Colette was about to say something, was saying more like interference, with soon materializing in that of bright gold and a bright white light shimmering in that of particles, is that of a quite mature and quite, well, Gervais's young woman wearing a full white uniform and outfit with long white silver hair and with one string basically orange. However, it almost looks like it's glowing. Not to mention what stands out about her is that of her heterochromia eyes, with her left eye being red and her right eye being yellow. As this being a spirit, one of the spirits that Will has summoned to this world using that mysterious weapon that he had as a child. As this woman being the sun god Balder, with Colette standing in place saying, "Oh, Miss Balder." Within, she couldn't help but basically caught off guard by that, saying, "I told you multiple times, mortal. Call me that of Lord Balder. Remember to get it right." Within saying, sorry. Within, Will walking up to Balder saying, "Balder, I'm guessing it was you, Camilla, and Latina were the ones sending that massive killing intent in the classroom." Within, she feeling like she's being scolded, saying, "And so what if I was, Summoner? It's not like I need you to." Within, giving that of somewhat that of a disappointed look, with Balder seeing this, as then she begins to crack as her face wavers a bit, saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, I was just annoyed at that damn teacher of yours. And those students basically laughing at you. You shouldn't be holding yourself back, Summoner. You have so much more power than these weaklings." With Will a little bit caught off guard by the kind words, saying, "Thanks, Balder. I really appreciate it. Knowing that you have my back is what I appreciate the most." But then, as she hears that, her cheeks couldn't help but be a little bit red, saying, "Just be grateful that you have you have support of a divine celestial being such as myself aiding you. Just remember your place next time, mortal, and don't try to look down on me. If anything, you should be looking down on those mongrels that basically belittle you." With then, soon Will saying, "Then it makes me no better than them. And I'd rather be the better man than a worthless one." Within, hearing those, she can help have that of a genuine smile, saying, "And it's what we admire you the most." As all four of them begin to walk in the hallways, with a few students basically noticing Balder, saying, "Hey, check it out, it's her again. Yeah, the mysterious woman in white. And also, have you felt her magical power? She's insane. Is she from the college level? I mean, she's beautiful, but what is she doing with that of the no talent list? Miss Lotus, I can understand, but why Serfort? I don't know, maybe the woman's taking pity on him. And since this is the first time Balder has been around that of the academy after all, occasionally, to be honest. Within, soon, Colette saying, "Still, Miss Balder, you might need to keep yourself in check a little bit. If Will doesn't basically decide to speak up from time to time, I think a lot of students are going to start becoming more wiser to what's going on." Within, she's scoffing, saying, "Then let the fools see so. Like I care what these mortals think of me. And it's Lord Balder. Remember it, Colette." With her laughing a little bit, saying, Right, sorry." With then, Colette saying, "But also, Will, you need to at least start speaking up for yourself a little bit." With Will saying, "I'll think about it. I just don't want to cause any unnecessary trouble if I can. That's all. Not to mention, Professor Edwards isn't entirely wrong about this world. Magic does control everything, but it's only that of a finite." Within another voice saying, "I see you're taking wise to that of our lessons, Will. Impressive." Within, hearing this, he couldn't help but smile a bit. Within another voice, as it being two voices actually, saying, "Expect nothing less from the person who summoned us, diligently and always taking in every knowledge he can and analyzing it. The people of this world are quite narrow-minded on the idea on what power truly is. Many of us started out weak, but we all grow strong with the aid of others. Summoner Will." With Will couldn't help but smile, saying, "Yeah, thanks, Sedith, Leaf." Within, he couldn't help but look up to that of the tower, with all three of them also looking up too. Within, Balder couldn't help but scoff, saying, "You know, if she really wanted to help us, she would have already given us more and more aid for credits that you need, Summoner. But then, Will looking at that of Balder saying, come on now, you're being too rough on her. She's doing the best she can. With one voice speaking, as it sounds so stoic, she cannot be as biased as she wants to be. I'm surprised she's keeping herself in check with only that of certain requests that are mainly catered towards you, Will. With Will looking down saying, yeah, you're not wrong about that. Serious. The best I can do is work harder and keep on working harder. After all, she's waiting for me. Or rather, for all of us. As he continues looking at the tower, with one person looking down at the tower, as this being Elfie, as in the early half years of the academy, she was already chosen to be a Magia Vander, with Will convincing her to move forward, as he would basically catch up with her in no time at all. But then, Balder basically huffing, saying, I should basically go for now. Don't want to waste up too much of my time being in the mortal world if I'm not needed. With then, Colette saying, oh, really? And besides, I don't want to deal with that man for now. But then, Will saying, that man, what are you? But then, he remembers, oh, crap. As he looks over, as soon as Balder disappears, that's when a certain man wearing that of a green sweater-like long shirt over that of a button-up white collar shirt and brown pants alongside that of light brown boots, as this being Professor Wertner Norgain, a silver-haired man with that of a ponytail and wearing that of small circular glasses. Within, as the man looks absolutely pissed. Within, Colette saying, well, I'll see you when you can, Will. Take care. Within, Will saying, With then one voice saying, don't worry, Will. We'll have your back. And speaking of that back, in that of Professor Wertner's private office saying, you utter idiot! With Will basically feeling a gust of air basically pushing him back with that of his cloak and everything, with him even having to hold his glasses tight. Not only that you soloed the entirety of the 6th floor, but you also went down to that of the 7th floor. Not to mention, it seems like you also believe that you could probably head down to the 8th floor. Are you really trying to get yourself killed, Will? Within, Will basically freaking out as he soon goes down to his knee, goes down to that of the ground, and basically bowing his head all the way down. Please forgive me, Professor Edward. I just needed the extra credit points, that's all. Please forgive me for being reckless. Within, Wertner basically couldn't help but to have that of annoyed look. Before then, certain two figures began to materialize as he realized, figures it would be you two to try and soothe my anger after all. As one being that of a quite handsome and good-looking young man, with that of purple robes, a light purple cape, black boots, and purplish silver hair, and that of a ponytail, as is being the magic general, and is also a noble, with the rank and title of Count. And the other being that of a young man, possibly around that of the same age as Will, as he wears quite that of, magnificent armor, with that of multiple red slashes and a red cape too, and matches that of his crimson red hair and ruby red eyes, as he also has a quite stoic figure, with then as this being Diamant, the crown prince of the kingdom of Brodia, with Wertner basically sighing, saying, alright, what is it the excuse this time? With then Diamant stepped up within him, basically going down to one knee and lowering his head, saying, apologies, Professor. That would be my doing, actually. I wanted to help Will as much as I can, so I suggested that we go down to the lower floors, take down as many monsters as we can to improve. I wanted to make sure that Will was safe, so I basically told him to stay behind while I do take care of the rest. But of course, Will was worried about me, so he followed me down alongside the rest. And for that, I am sorry. My abrasiveness, my duty to my summoner, clouded my judgment and basically got that of Will in trouble. My apologies. Within, Pet saying, he can't take all the blame. I am as well. I was a little bit worried. I was actually kind of interested to basically go down to the other floors myself, wanting to know about that of the many other creatures and monsters that dwell down below. I tagged along too, and asked Will to follow after me as well. That is all. I take responsibility given that I am the one who's also tasked to help that of Will improve in his magical studies. I shouldn't call myself a teacher if I am also reckless as well. Within hearing that, Wartner couldn't help but sigh, saying, I figured as much. Still, within, looking at Will, saying, Will, you are their summoner. It's your duty to keep an eye on them after all, and also be in charge. How are you supposed to be in charge of them if you allow them to do as they please? Within, Will basically wincing a little bit, saying, I'm sorry. I'm epically sorry. I'll be more in a commanding role after all. With that, you may be wondering, how does Wartner know about that of Will's summons? Well, it was pretty early on in the year, with multiple rumors of mysterious individuals who aren't even tied to that of Red Garden Academy appearing all around that of the school and even around that of the city as well. Some not really causing any problems, while others a lot more rowdier. I think you can all guess on the rowdier ones. Sooner or later, Will came clean to that of Professor Wartner about his abilities to summon those from other worlds with that of a unique special weapon. At first, the professor was a little bit hesitant to believe it, but when saw a demonstration of a certain hero being summoned right in front of him, it looks like Will was telling the truth, because you can't fake what he felt from that of the being he summoned. With this, Wartner decided to do what he can to help out as Will as much as possible for the academy. Not to mention, he also aids around with that of the Emblem heroes that wander around the academy from time to time. Not wanting to cause any more of a problems, but however, that's easier said than done when you have somebody like Balder basically wandering around as she sees please. So of course, it also caused a bit of a headache for Wartner, even though he volunteered for this. As Will saying, if it makes you feel any better, I did take out at least that of 3 evil guardians, if that makes it feel better. Within, Wartner basically have that of a pissed off look as Will basically cowers down to the ground again, before Wartner feels that of a full-on sense of killing intent, within realizing, apologies, Camilla. If I don't do this, the boy will not learn. Oh, Wartner, if you know this, why do you still do it? My dear precious Will is doing the best he can in an academy that continues to put him down. As then, soon, a young woman in all black with a quite mature figure similar to that of Balder basically clings around that of Will, making Will basically blush at this. As also standing out is that of her long purple hair and the clothes that almost soon suited for royalty, unlike that of Diamant's clothes, which was more suited for battle royalty. As this is Camilla, the Light of Nor, and the Queen of the Kingdom of Nor. Also, she's quite clingy towards Will as well, with her having quite the intimidating and quite threatening smile towards Wartner, with Wartner saying, for taking down the evil sentinels, I dispose upon you 6 credits. Within, Will getting out of that of Camilla's hold, saying, all right. With that of the 3 summons, can help but be grateful and happy for that of Will. With Kiki also celebrating with that of her familiar master, as they do that of the little fist bump. With Diamant smiling at Will, saying, Well, it's a little bit closer than before, but well, at least we made it. What Pitt couldn't help but smile, saying, I guess it was a little worth it going down out of the lower floors. Within, Wartner saying, don't push it. With Pitt a little bit caught off guard by that and nervous, saying, sorry. Within, as he gives that of Will the credits he needs, before then saying, seeing on how dedicated you are to this, you're still determined to be a Magiavander. Is this correct, Will? Within, Will hearing this, as the others, couldn't help but wonder what Wartner's about to say. Is he about to basically tell him to drop this, or is he going to support him like he has for a while now? Within, Will saying, and if I say I still am, Professor? Within saying, nothing wrong with that. If anything, you have the talent, the ability to do so. Unfortunately for the school, your little ability of yours has to stay secreted. With Will hearing that, looking down a bit. Within, Diamant saying, I still say that he has no need to. It's a magical weapon that he has, the Brighter Blick, was always meant for Will. Surely the school and even that of those of the tower would allow such a... Within, Wartner saying, nothing wrong with that. However, it's Will himself that's the problem. With Will hearing this, as he couldn't help but feel a little bit, attacked after hearing this. With Camilla feeling Will tensing out of her hand, as she couldn't help but narrow her eyes at the professor, as he continues going on. You would need that of a huge amount of points, and that of praxis, writing, and even spell working classes. And the proper number of credits needed to ascend to that of the college level classes you need that of 7,200 credits. And your current credit score doesn't do it for you right now. Then hearing that, Will can help but look down as he's aware of his current credit score. Unfortunately, it's currently in that of the 6,000 marger. Sure, it's enough for him to graduate, but not enough for him to ascend to the tower. Within, Pitts couldn't help but lean back on that one of the walls before pulling out one of the book from one of the shelves, saying, we figured as much. That's why we've been doing as much as we can to excel him in the other remaining 2 classes. The praxis classes allow him to go down to the dungeon and defeat monsters, and also do requests for that of anybody who needs aid from the academy, but cannot venture down to the dungeon themselves. And as for that of the writing classes, you've already seen that he's basically the top of the class in that. The only one who's basically above him is the number 1 student in the school. With Wogner couldn't help but sigh, saying, yes, Leanna Wogzers, the number 1, she is still the highest ranking student in all 3 subjects of the academy. It's that very reason on why she already has a spot to ascend the tower once the year finally comes to an end. With Will couldn't help but look at his hands. However, he feels like something is trying to materialize before stopping that, saying, that's why, with the help, I've been improving that of writing classes, but I'm also the top of the school classes when it comes to praxis exams. So within, Wartner basically stopped Will from going on, saying, I told you this before, and all of you as well. Going down to the dungeon, killing as many monsters as you can, and bringing back their materials is not enough. You're making up for some of it with that of your writing classes too. If you keep this up, you may be able to graduate and also attend the tower. But if you can't keep up this flow, you'll never be able to make it to the tower, and you know this, Will. One slip up, and then, without warning, he sees that one of the papers he no longer needs as he rips it in place as an example. And it all goes crumbling down. With Will looking down, with that of the 3 summons in the room, knowing that Wartner is right, but that doesn't mean they're going to give up. As Wartner can tell by the looks of all the summons looking straight at Will, with that of a look of comfort and also an that of belief. With that, The man couldn't help but basically smile before saying, "That's why you need to keep this flow going. You already have enough credits to graduate. All you need to do is just focus on getting enough credits you need for that of the higher ranks, for the immediate higher rank classes in the tower. Unfortunately for you, even though you've reached that of the credits needed to graduate, however, you still need enough credits for that of this term before it switches over to the next term, which is at the end of this week." Within hearing that, Will couldn't help but basically get out of Camilla's grasp even more, saying, "This week? But I thought I had enough credits. I thought..." Wartner basically saying, "You need at least add 3 more credits to move on to the next term. After that, it should be full sailing for you to gain as enough credits as you can in that of both writing and praxis classes to head to that of enough credits you need for the college level status. But you can't do that if you don't have enough credits to move on to the next term." But then Will saying, "Then there's only one thing I have to do." With Pitt, Camilla, and Diamant basically saying in their own way, "Focus on training, getting stronger." Pitt going, "Study as hard as you can." With Camilla going, "Taking over the entire school and forcing them to make you go to that of the college level classes." With everybody looking at that of the purple net, even Will with that of a shocked look. With then saying, "What? I thought about this idea for the past 6 years if he's been at the academy. It would be so much more easier if we do that." With Will shaking his head saying, "No, there's only one thing I have to do. And that is," before then pulling something from his bag saying, "Looking through all my notes. I know, I got it. There has to be a monster here that I can use to gain the credits I need to move on. Come on. But then Warner couldn't help but basically laugh at this mentally. Before then, Pitt saying, "You already have something up your sleeve ahead of time, didn't you?" With then Warner saying, "Am I that easy to read nowadays? Let's just say it's just gotten what I've learned spending time with you, my friend." With that, Warner couldn't help begin speaking out loud saying, "There was a certain little monster that I had to take care of tonight, actually. It being a 4-point Baskerville, if I recall. And last time I checked, you haven't defeated one yet. Isn't that correct?" But then, Will blinking multiple times as he looks at that of Diamant saying, "I don't believe I have taken down that creature yet. Maybe Lady Balder?" As she speaks up saying, "No, I have not. Wouldn't waste my time with lower creatures unless it's necessary." With Wartner hearing that, saying, "It's still hard to get used to that." As Will hearing this, with then, Wartner continues going, "It's on that of the 6th floor, so if you feel like it, instead of me deciding to take care of it myself, maybe you could." With then, Will basically running towards Wartner and was hugging him tightly, saying, thank you, Professor Wartner, you are the best." Within, Wartner saying, "Hey, will you let go of me, you little psycho?" With all 3 of the summons couldn't help but smile at this. However, they also couldn't help but narrow their eyes a little bit, as they are aware of a certain someone had been listening on their conversation this entire time before he walks away. Within, Diamant realizing he walks away, saying, "It looks like that of Scion has found out about that of our problem. Or rather, Will's problem." But then, Pitt couldn't help but basically scratch his hair, saying, "Seems so. How do we do to take care of this?" But then, Camilla thinking, "How about we end him? It would be so much more easier, don't you think? Bad little kittens like him need to be properly punished after all." Within, the 3 other male heroes couldn't help but look at that of Camilla and realizing, I think it's best that she doesn't come out and help out that of Will. Later on that night, Will, now changed out of that of his school uniform and now in that of his dungeon wearing attire, even switched out that of his, circle frame glasses for that of goggles, given to him by that of Eltheria as a parting gift and as a form of keeping strength after all. With that of a sword in his left hand. However, there is also another sword on his back. However, it's covered in that of multiple wrappings. Okay, 4-point Baskerville, here I come. Once I take care of this, I'll be able to move on to the next term. With then a certain someone walking alongside that of Will, as it being not a new summon, as is currently that of a young lady wearing basically blue robes that only go up to that of her middle thighs, actually, a red scarf around her, and short purplish hair that goes down to in that of the form of a bob cut, and long black boots that also go up to that of her thighs as well. As this being the wayward strategist in training, Katarina, as she soon looks over that of Will's notes saying, "So, care to ask on why you didn't tell Professor Werner that you did take care of a Baskerville before?" Well, then, Will couldn't help but basically get a little bit nervous saying, "Well, if I told him that we were almost nearly burned to a crisp because of it, he definitely probably wouldn't have let us go." With Diamant being here saying, "That's only an understatement. We did underestimate it the first time we took it on, but now we are prepared and ready for this foe. Which means I will need to have you guys at your full strength for this after all." In hearing that, Karina saying, "Oh, I see. That's understandable." Seeing her a little bit down, saying, "Don't worry. Any tactic that you give us, I know for sure is going to be perfect. I trust you." Within hearing that, Karina saying, "Thank you, Lord Will," as she gives out that of a blushing smile to her summoner. Within, she having that of a boost of confidence saying, "Then allow me to exchange the strategy that I have planned for us." As they begin to go over that of Katarina's plan, that's when they soon hear somebody screaming in the distance on the floor. Within, all of them couldn't help but be a little bit worried, with Will not even hesitating, rushing towards the scream was, with Diamant saying, "Will!" With Katarina saying, "Lord Will, wait!" With Will not even listening to that of his summoned allies, as he realized, somebody came down to the floor? Same as me? But why? Within, a certain voice saying, because it was Scion and his lackeys down there. Within, hearing this, Will saying, "Wait, Scion and his lackeys? What are you talking about?" Scion within, soon, he comes to the realization saying, "No, if Scion heard us, Professor Werner and us, then that means he knows. He planned on probably coming down here to kill the Baskerville, so I wouldn't need the credits I need to graduate to move on to the next term. So that means he arrives, seeing that of the creature that Scion is fighting against, or rather, panicking against. This being an evil sentry. However, it isn't just an evil sentry. Instead, there are also evil guards as well. As the evil sentry, basically a large ogre-like monster with that of a massive black blade on his back. And as for the evil guards, as these are basically four-legged quadrupedic creatures with that of 3 horns, 2 horns on the side of its head, and one black horn in the middle of its head. And there are basically 5 of them. With Will realizing, damn it, they must have teamed up with that of the evil sentry. Monsters like this always tend to side with that of a pack leader when they feel like a higher ranked monster comes up to the floors. And Scion isn't thinking straight. If he was, he could take out all of them easily. He's the 4th strongest in the school for a reason. But yet, as Will was about to prepare his sword, within, Balder saying, "Let the brat die." Within, hearing this from Balder, saying, "But Balder, I'm saying this, summoner, let the brat die. His life is meaningless into the grand scheme of things. And not to mention how he treats you, and you allow it to basically go unpunished." Within, Will saying, "Balder, you said you wish to be the bigger person. I never said that I wish to be bigger person, but I am a god. My life is greater than anything that any of you mortals could comprehend. And my judgment says that the boy must die for his crimes, especially his crimes towards you, Will. But then, Will, hearing that, as he stands up, with soon, he basically walks out. However, instead of pulling out his regular sword on his hip, he pulls out the sword from that of his back. As it begins to unwrap, showing that of a red blade with crimson red embroidery, with Balder saying, "Will, what are you?" Within, he soon slams the blade tip first down to the ground, as soon a spell circle materializes beneath him. Before materializing in front, as soon she realized, "You cheeky little bastard of a brat. Why do you have to grow a backbone against me of all people?" As she mentally speaks to herself, saying, "Not that I don't like it. It's actually quite amazing." Within, Scion noticing the light. Within, soon noticing Will saying, "The laggard? What is he?" Within, noticing the spell circle beneath him, saying, "Wait, he has magic, but he's using a sword?" With Will speaking out loud, saying, "Come forth, heroes of the Emblem! Sun God Balder! Rising Power, Diamant! Luminous Rider, Altina! And Mage General, Pent!" As materializing from that of the circle is that of 2 orbs, 1 blue orb, and 1 green orb. As in that of the red orb is Balder, but instead, however, this time she has that of a white blade that's quite unique, something that you would never see anyone would wield in this world. And behind her is that of mechanized wings that glow that of a powerful orange, as they shift and fold, allowing her to fly. The other being that of Diamant. However, he has that of a blade in that both his hands, as his hands are basically over that of the pommel of the blade, as the blade is tipped down to the ground. Before then, with one hand, he raises the sword, preparing for battle. Soon, another figure, as it being that of a new figure, with that wearing that of bright reddish orange armor, with that of a red kipio, basically under the armor, showing that of her toned legs, her long brown hair, with that of wearing a white headband, and her chestnut brown eyes, but in her hands having that of a 3-pronged spear blade in that of her arms, but also she's also riding on that of a green wyvern, and last but not least, being Pent. However, as winds begin to basically crackle around him, he has that of a green tone in his hands before closing it and smiling, saying, "Well then, shall we begin our summoner?" With Will removing that of the red blade from the ground before spinning it around, and soon it continues to spin as he lets go of it before it begins to float around that of Will, and then he jumps up and soon he lands on the blade as he's standing on the blade as he continues to float before unsheathing the regular blade, saying, "Let's." With Scion seeing this, saying, "What?" As soon he's saying, "Katarina had that of a plan of her own, but that was for a Baskerville. But for this, I think we can handle this pretty easily. Allow me the sentry, though." Within, Balder couldn't help but scoff, saying, "Do as you please. You are the one in charge." With then hearing that, Will couldn't help but smirk. Before then, using that of the sword to fly towards that of the evil sentry. Within, they begin to clash, with the sentry being knocked back a little bit, while Will continue moving forward, as then Will holding nothing back as he begins to cut and slice at that of the evil sentry pretty easily. As for that of the, evil guards, on the other hand, they began to basically channel that of dark magic. However, they were soon taken care of quite easily by that of his 3 other hero summoned companions, with Altina basically skewering that of one of them, before then tossing it down to the ground as it soon basically shatters into that of nothing but bones, twirling that of her massive spear in her hands. Pent soon basically sends a powerful gust of winds, so sharp and so fast that the dart that of the evil guard that he targeted at didn't even have time to react, as it soon basically split in two, but not stopping there, as it splits into multiple pieces of itself, before being nothing left but bones. As for that of Diamant and Balder as well, they take care of that of their evil guards, with Diamant basically channeling flames through that of his sword, before then slicing it in two, as leaving that of two other evil guards for that of Balder, with her not even phased as she still hovers in the air, before then blitzing towards them so quickly that they didn't have time to react, before then cutting them all in two with one solitary slash, as she couldn't help but smirk, with saying, "Weaklings," before then noticing Kiki as the gemstone in her head begins glowing, as she couldn't help but smirk. Several minutes ago, Edwards basically barges in that of Wertner's office, saying, "Wertner, I need your aid." Wertner was about to leave that of his office for that of tonight, saying, "Oh, Professor Edwards, how can I help you?" With them saying, a few idiot students of mine decided to go down to that of the dungeon tonight without permission. I need you to locate them." With Wertner sighing, saying, "Figures as much. Tell me, which floor they're on?" With then Edward saying, "Floor 5. As he's about to get ready, he couldn't help but smile before closing his eyes, stopping, saying, "I don't think that's necessary." With then Edward saying, "What? What do you mean?" Before grabbing onto that as a crystal ball, saying, "Because everything is steadily taken care of." With that of the crystal ball glowing, with Edwards noticing the visuals within inside, as that of the, long-haired, gloomy, and basically asshole of a teacher couldn't help but be shocked and surprised looking at what he's seeing that of the Emblem heroes taking care of monsters easily, but with weapons, with only one of them using magic. However, what catches his eye out the most is Balder, with that of her powers and her very essence radiating magic itself. What even caught off guard is seeing Diamant's sword basically catching on fire as well. But what really catches him off guard is Will, with that of his power, with him basically taking out that of an evil sentry, while on that of a floating sword. Back with that of Will and the evil sentry, as the sentry tries to hit Will multiple times, as he dodges each strike, as he spins around another slash, before then cutting that of the evil sentry's arm off, as he drops his blade. With then, seeing the opportunity, he sheaths that of his regular sword, before then grabbing that of the massive black single-edged blade. Before then, he basically goes ham on that of the evil sentry, slicing it, dicing it, completely eviscerating that of the gigantic ogre-like monster, even cutting off that of its arm. With Scion seeing this, he can't help but be completely and utterly caught off guard, saying, What is the meaning of this? How is he?" But then Balder going over to that of Scion, saying, "Now you see, you worthless mortal." With then looking at that of the white-haired woman with the sword, as she pins her sword down to the ground, catching Scion off guard, as she continues speaking while still looking at that of Will, going completely off on that of the evil sentry. This is somebody who is beyond that of magical power, beyond that of this world's understanding on what true strength lies. With Diamant sheathing his sword too, saying, "This is what true power looks like. Power of hard work, determination, and having those who believe in you." With Altina and her wyvern landing onto the ground, as she gets off of her, companion, "What you see, Sir Ulster, is proof of talent and skill, not through that of magic, but through hard work and training. Before Pet being the last one, as he closes his tome before crossing his arms, saying, "This is what Will Serfort, his true power is. The power of an emblem summoner." Within, Will basically stabs that of the massive blade into that of the evil sentry as it screams out in pain. Before then, it grabs that of its blade before tossing it out. However, it prepares its one last ditch effort as it being its magic spell, sending it as a purplish spell circle appears, being dark magic. With Will seeing the opportunity, he soon jumps off that of the sword before grabbing it. As the evil sentry sends its dark magic blast, with Will basically thrusting his blade forward, before Will saying, "Reflect." As soon as he says that, that's when the magic blast coats around the blade before then channel into one single tip of the blade, and then sent flying towards that of the evil sentry, completely and utterly eviscerating it, basically leaving that of the lower half remaining, but the top half completely gone. And the only thing left is one of the horns and the massive blade down below. With that, Will basically spins his red sword, as this red sword being the brighter blick, transformed to suit that of Will's needs as a blade, with Zion in complete and utter disbelief. And not just him, but also Professor Edwards, as Wartner also explained too, saying, This can't be true. He has no magic. How is he able to summon people from other worlds? Magic like that is on the highest level, even beyond that of the Magia Vanders. And you're telling me that talentless, magicless boy has that power? I won't accept it. I refuse. In a brush of his anger, he soon rushes out of the office before slamming the door, with Wartner all by himself, scratching the back of his head saying, I was really hoping he would be at least a lot more opened up to it. Mage pride is a fickle thing, is it not? As for back down the dungeon, within, Will putting the sword back on his back. However, the wrappings soon automatically come back around it. Within saying, I think this should be enough. It's worth 10 points, so I think it's enough for me to move on to the next term. Don't you all agree? Within, all of them could help but smile, saying, Of course, definitely, my lord. Let's just get out of here. I'm tired of wasting my time. With Will scratching his cheek while smiling, saying, Of course, Balder. Let's go. With that, they soon all begin to fade, as the immense magical power and strength coming from them soon begins to fade. With Will not even bothering going to Scion as he walks past him. With Scion basically wondering, what the hell are you? You damn laggard. As on this very day, everything began to change for that of Redguard Academy, as the summoner of the Fire Emblem heroes begins to finally make his move. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Let's read them. Once again, sorry that this is a very long chapter. Honestly, I was hoping that it wouldn't be too long, but hey, that's my own damn fault for making it this long, adding extra dialogue in the process too. As for that of, well, Will's summons, he already has that of 13 heroes actually. Now, normally I would always basically go down the line and how he summons over time, but I decided since this is his last year and the few arcs after this, things begin to get a lot more crazier. I think it's best for him to already have a full set of Emblem heroes that have his back after all. But again, that's just me. Any rate, if you guys like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification, keep to date my videos to upload the channel. Also, please check out my Discord, my gaming channel, my other channel, my side channel, my Patreon, and my Cash App. All link in the description below. And if you guys have any what ifs you want me to do, please do so in the comments below as a super thanks comment as well. Any rate, with all that said, this is Leon Mookie, signing out. Later, guys, and I hope you all take care. Take it away, Shiro.
Hi, everyone. This is White Fox. If you liked Leon's video, click the video on the left to see the most recent one. And if you want to see more of this, click the subscribe button and notification bell and check out his playlists. If you still haven't subscribed, do so in the center. With that said, I hope to see you again on my love's channel. Bye!